New York, early 2000s. The clubs pulse with the sound of Randy B. The fashion is imitated, the hooks are sung by heart, and dreams of fame are born in every makeshift recording studio. At that time, the genre is experiencing a renaissance, sensuality, elegance, rivalry. And in the middle of this wave, one name begins to stand out: Trey Songz. He has everything to captivate: a disarming smile, a velvet voice, and a quiet confidence. But behind that calm, some already sense tension, an energy ready to explode. Before becoming a star, he was Tremaine Aldon Neverson. Born in Virginia into a modest family, he grew up under the strict discipline of his stepfather, a military man. At home, order ruled. Trey learned early to control himself, to hide his emotions. That control would later become both his strength and his downfall. As a teenager, he was quiet, almost shy. Music wasn't even his dream. It was his relatives who encouraged him to sing, intrigued by the clarity of his voice. He hesitated, then finally gave in, a decision that changed everything. Destiny knocked when one of his stepfather's friends, producer Troy Taylor, heard him sing. Impressed, Taylor immediately saw his potential. He became Trey's mentor, training and molding him, helping him craft his artistic identity. Together, they built what would become the Trey Songz signature: raw sensuality, refined melodies, and a provocative edge. Under Troy Taylor's guidance, Trey left Virginia for New Jersey. There, he recorded his first demos and began to make a name for himself as the Prince of Virginia. His style stood out, poised elegance mixed with unapologetic confidence. In 2005, he released his debut album, I Gotta Make It. It wasn't a commercial explosion, but it got noticed. Critics praised his sincerity and distinctive voice. The public discovered an ambitious artist, halfway between the softness of a crooner and the intensity of a romantic rapper. Trey Songz became one of the new faces of American Randy B. 2 years later, in 2007, he returned with Trey Day. This time, he leveled up. The production was tighter, the collaborations more prestigious. He worked with industry heavyweights, including R. Kelly himself. The single Can't Help But Wait, featured in the Step Up 2 soundtrack, became his first big hit, climbing into the top 20. Trey's voice took over the airwaves, and his name became familiar. But in 2009, everything changed. His third album, Ready, catapulted him to the top. Songs like Neighbors Know My Name and I Need a Girl were everywhere. The videos were sensual, suggestive, unapologetic. Trey Songz wasn't just singing about love anymore. He was performing it. His image became his brand: open shirts, smoldering looks, and perfect control. The media called him the new Prince of Randy B. The success was massive. Trey was invited everywhere, adored by women, respected by peers. But behind that success, cracks began to show. Close friends noticed subtle changes, a young man becoming demanding, even harsh, convinced that his talent excused everything. Old interviews revealed early signs of arrogance. He spoke about rivalries with the greats, openly criticized R. Kelly, and claimed he was ready to take the throne. Some admired his confidence, others were irritated. But one thing was clear: Trey wanted to be seen not just as a singer, but as a king. On stage, he was magnetic. His concerts became full-scale shows. Fans screamed his name. Magazines ranked him among the sexiest artists alive. Each video pushed the boundaries of provocation further. But the more he attracted the spotlight, the more his off-camera behavior raised eyebrows. Rumors spread about his temper: angry, controlling, perfectionist. Some described fits of rage and obsession with control. Still, the industry looked away. Trey made money. By the late 2000s, he had reached the fame he'd always wanted. To his fans, he embodied passion and confidence. To the media, he was Rand B's next evolution. But behind the flashbulbs, another story was forming. The shy boy from Virginia was gone, replaced by a man who believed he was untouchable. And that belief would soon lead him straight into darkness. In 2010, Trey Songz released Passion, Pain, and Pleasure. The title said it all. Passion, pain, pleasure. 3 words that foreshadowed the direction his life and career would soon take. The album was an instant success. Singles like Bottoms Up featuring Nicki Minaj and Can't Be Friends dominated radio. His image as a sensual icon peaked. But behind the music, something had shifted. The visuals were bolder, the lyrics more explicit. Trey wasn't just singing about love, he was claiming power. Around him, the circle grew smaller. He became more private, always surrounded by bodyguards, rarely seen with old friends. Former collaborators described him as tense, demanding, unpredictable. Charming one day, cold and dismissive the next. In 2012, he released Chapter 5. It was a triumph. The single Heart Attack featuring Kelly Rowland became one of his biggest hits. For the first time, Trey hit #1 on the Billboard 200. He was at his peak, but the cracks were widening. A minor incident caught attention, an altercation in a club, a dispute with security, witnesses mentioning violent behavior. Nothing was confirmed, no charges filed, but the whispers grew. In show business, whispers are often warnings. Observers began speaking of the throne syndrome, artists who, after gaining everything, lose their sense of boundaries. Trey seemed to embody it. He was no longer the disciplined kid from Virginia, but a star who believed the world owed him everything. Then came 2014 and the album Trigger. It matched his image perfectly, confident, seductive, provocative. Nana-dominated clubs. Smartphones showed off his songwriting talent. Everything appeared to be going perfectly, but tension was brewing beneath the surface. His longtime manager, Kevin Liles, tried to keep things under control. He protected Trey, covered incidents before they became public, but Trey grew uncontrollable. According to insiders, Liles had to manage several private crises, internal incidents quietly buried. Some even whispered about an ambiguous relationship between the two men, a rumor that still disturbs many today. In 2016, everything changed. Trey performed in Detroit at Joe Louis Arena. The concert was sold out, the crowd electric. Around 11:30 p.m., organizers told him to stop. The venue couldn't go past curfew. Trey refused. Furious, he shouted into the mic, "If you cut the sound, I'll destroy everything." Seconds later, the sound was cut and he exploded. He threw his mic, overturned equipment, tore down parts of the stage. A spotlight fell. A police officer was hit and injured. Chaos erupted. Trey was arrested and charged with assault and property damage. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 18 months of probation, anger management classes, and drug tests. For many, it was the turning point. Something had truly broken. A year later, in 2017, another scandal hit. Actress and singer Keke Palmer accused Trey Songz of trapping her in a situation of sexual intimidation. She said he filmed her without consent for a music video after she refused. Terrified, she said she hid in a closet to escape. Trey denied everything, calling it a misunderstanding, but the story shocked many. It was the height of the #MeToo movement, and for the first time, a woman publicly called out one of R&B's biggest names. Keke Palmer became the first to speak, and the first to be attacked. Fans called her a liar, jealous, dramatic. Still, she stood her ground, and slowly, other women began to reach out. Their stories were eerily similar: anger, control, fear. Some spoke of groping, others of threats. Nothing was yet proven, but Trey's image began to crack. In 2018, another woman, Andrea Bura, accused Trey Songz of hitting and choking her in Los Angeles during NBA All-Star Weekend. She said she lost consciousness under the blows. Her lawyer, Lisa Bloom, known for representing celebrity victims, held a press conference. Andrea, bruised and shaken, said, "I just want him to apologize. I want him to get help. And even if I'm not his first victim, I hope I'm the last." Again, Trey denied everything. His lawyers called it lies and manipulation. But this time, the story went mainstream. News outlets covered it. Trey Songz's name was no longer linked to music, but to scandal. More accounts followed. An anonymous woman claimed he tried to force himself on her in a Miami club. Another said he slipped his hand down her pants without consent. No immediate charges, but the damage was done. Behind the beats and the stage lights, the trigger myth was crumbling. Fans were torn between love and disgust. The industry began to distance itself. In the label offices, one phrase kept circulating: "It's only a matter of time." And indeed, from 2020 onward, Trey Songz' career stopped being a musical journey. It became a case file. A thick one filled with testimonies, rumors, and lawsuits. It started with a podcast. Social media figures Selena Powell and Eliza spoke about their experiences with him. The details were shocking. Selena called him a kidnapper. Eliza said he urinated on her without consent. The episode sent shockwaves. Many thought it was a publicity stunt, until others came forward. A few weeks later, Winter Blanco from Bad Girls Club told a similar story describing physical assault: bruises, broken nails, marks on her neck. She said, "I didn't want to speak out. They'd call me dramatic, attention-seeking. I was scared." And that silence, many say, is what allowed Trey to continue for years. The story stayed hidden, whispered in private circles across Los Angeles. Then, in 2021, former basketball player and influencer Dylan Gonzalez broke the silence on Instagram. "Every time I read about another woman assaulted by Trey Songz, I relive my own experience. He broke me." Her words caused an uproar. This wasn't rumor anymore. It was a public confession. Soon after, singer BB Rexa revealed that at a wedding, Trey cornered her against a wall and forcibly kissed her. "He had been staring at me all night," she said. "I managed to push him off, and he said, 'I'm just kidding.' But I wasn't laughing." The stories piled up. The internet exploded. Some defended him. Others saw him as yet another example of unchecked power in the music industry. Then came a new, even darker case. Maryland police officer Tyrell D. sued Trey Songz for assault in Las Vegas. According to reports, Tyrell found his wife distressed in Trey's hotel suite. When he tried to intervene, Trey punched him, fracturing his eye socket. The court ruled that Trey owed more than $11 million in damages, but the worst was still to come. A woman identified as Jane Doe filed a lawsuit for sexual assault, false imprisonment, and negligence. She claimed Trey and his former manager, Kevin Liles, attacked her at a party in Los Angeles in 2016. The suit alleged that executives at Atlantic Records and 300 Entertainment knew about Trey's behavior and chose to protect him. Lawyers described it as a system of silence, a network built to shield stars at any cost. That's when industry figures began to speak. 50 Cent publicly announced he was banning Trey Songz from his Tycoon Weekend events, saying, "When I ban someone, it's serious. You don't act like that around me." Rapper Jacquees went live on social media, calling Trey a grapist, before backtracking weeks later, a reversal that only deepened the controversy. And in podcasts, the floodgates opened. Rory, formerly of the Joe Budden podcast, said, "I've spoken to about 15 women. They don't know each other, but their stories match." Trey Songz is a dangerous man. Even DJ Academics, once dismissive, changed his tone. "All your truths are coming out. It's going to be worse than R. Kelly." That comparison became constant. R. Kelly, once Trey's idol, had become the cautionary tale of Randy B. And now, Trey Songz was being called his successor in disgrace. Fans, torn between nostalgia and disgust, no longer knew what to think. Songs once about passion now felt tainted. When he sang "Neighbors Know My Name," people once heard desire. Now, many hear power and control. The industry moved on. Labels distanced themselves. Radio stations stopped playing his music. Collaborations vanished. Even his former allies went silent. 50 Cent never invited him back. Chris Brown and Usher avoid the topic. In this business, silence often means exile. Trey Songz has never been criminally convicted. He's never served time. But in public opinion, his image is shattered. He's no longer admired. He's whispered about. What broke wasn't just a career, it was an illusion. The illusion of a charming gentleman of Randy B whose talent could hide his flaws. Today, Trey lives quietly. A few appearances, a few videos, a smile that seems forced. But every time his name resurfaces, it's not about music. It's about another accusation. And behind those scandals lies an uncomfortable truth. This isn't just the fall of one man. It's the fall of a system, one that builds idols, grants them power, and then looks away when it all collapses. Because in the end, Trey Songz isn't an isolated story. He's a mirror reflecting an industry that glorifies dominance, confuses charisma with control, and turns desire into entitlement. The shy boy from Virginia, the one who just wanted to sing, got lost somewhere between the spotlight and excess. The Prince of Randy B became a shadow, trapped in his own downfall. And in the silence surrounding his name today, one question lingers. Can Trey Songz ever rise again? No one knows. But one thing is certain, even the sweetest voice can't silence the sound of truth forever.